This is Rydo, and we are back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 30th, so we are now past the Memorial Day weekend, and for that reason we can move forward and try and cover things, I guess, and maybe we'll get a little bit of news. Feels like a few more games came out in between Monday and today than all around the weekend, which seemed a little weird, but alright. Let's see. Theoretically, I only need to do one thing, but I'll probably do two. Win a game with a Shaman and Warlock. Win a game with a Paladin and Warrior. I did remember to actually log in, and I'm starting early, so I guess what we're gonna do is we'll start playing now, and then we'll come back around and do the Tavern Brawl on the Asian account. Not really starting super early. It's 3 o'clock Central, so in theory there are times when I start streaming at 2. And I guess not. Let's just hop into a game. I'm debating, because I just cannot remember whether my rank, being at rank 20, but being the fact that I ranked up to rank 19, whether that's going to mean that from rank 19 I get knocked down to, say, rank 21, or am I going to get ranked from rank 20 knocked down to, say, 22. And I know it's not even that generous. It's not that you just get knocked down 1 rank, it's that you get knocked down 5 or 10, no, not 10, but 3 or 4 ranks. Hearthstone deck tracker overlay screen still not doing what it should, and I don't know how to really fix that with 100% certainty. That's just, I guess, gonna be a weird thing until we can try to adjust it, I guess. Let's start. Steam already announced that Lego DC Supervillains was coming out, and I've already got it on my wish list. This is at least to do this, but whatever. Like, I should have wasted the coin to do that, but they're coming out this October, but having just played probably the last Lego game I'm gonna play for a while, there's nothing super interesting from what I've seen so far. You're just, all this is Lego Marvel Lego DC Batman 4, where Lego Batman 3 was just the Justice League. I suppose this is tying in to a, let's just read the article if we can find it, tying into a comic series, but that doesn't really mean anything at all, because these comic series come and go and get cancelled, and nobody looks at them a lot anyways. Let's see, I had like 6 new tweets before I could move on. Full Throttle Remastered Episode 1 aired on my channel 24 minutes ago, so this is one of the first incidences of moving over to the 45-minute point. So episodes are now going to try and air at 45 minutes instead of directly on the hour, in a hope to get more announcements and notifications. However, even today there's been no announcements and notifications, and so yeah, there's really no no real reason to believe that any of that is going to help, because I heavily suspect it is just YouTube intentionally censoring people, and not me in particular, just everybody at random times. Every small YouTuber, I think, is getting some kind of intentional censorship on them just to help the big YouTube channels. And certainly it is helping ruin YouTube. And I don't want to go crazy with that and just decry that every change on YouTube is making it worse, but in the case of YouTube, that actually is true. Like, not every change made to Facebook made it worse. And inherently, if Facebook had never changed anything since day one, it would have just suffered the same fate as MySpace, where people just left and got tired of the service. I would say LinkedIn is also a good example of a service that's hard-pressed to think of anything new to do, but also suffers quite a bit because it has nothing new and nothing's changed on it. But that's kind of fine too, because it fills its niche of being a place to list your resume and look for jobs. And if LinkedIn tried to become more like Facebook and be a social media, that would be really crazy. We've got a game on Steam called Wrestlers Without Boundaries. Start a career of the professional wrestler, defeat your rivals, and become the best champions. It says it's a sports wrestling fighting game. You actually don't see a lot of these, interestingly enough. You would kind of get the idea that would be something that happens way more often than it actually does. But I think, frankly, unlike something along the lines of RPG Maker games, I don't think there's an inherent system in existence to make wrestling games. And wrestling games, from a very technical level, do require a lot more animation, because you have to go character skin on skin contact with every single move, or in the case of this game, you're not having any contact and instead you're animating little flashes of light or energy, which does not look realistic. Even WWE games don't look great. Here we got somebody chatting me, and who knows what in the world he's sending, but it's all in Japanese, so friended and defriended instantly. Apologies if you really wanted to be my friend or such, but you're coming off way too strong for Hearthstone. Wrestlers Without Boundaries is $7.99. One of the things that's interesting, I would say, about this wrestling game, even though it does really look horrible, is it is male and female wrestlers, and this is not amateur wrestling as in the wrestling that is actually the real wrestling. This is theatrical professional wrestling, Hell in the Cell type things, which is a Hell in the Cell type edition. So $7.99. I doubt there are any reviews though.
I must move quickly.
I think if you really want to play a wrestling game, and arguably nobody does, There is certainly a argument that can be made that anybody who's into wrestling gets more than enough of their fill by watching it on TV, because it's on all the time in the United States and around the world. And if you don't have enough of your fill from watching it, then usually you're reenacting it to some level, whether you're just doing it in your own living room or backyard, or whether you are straight up doing backyard wrestling.
Job's done.
So the only wrestling game that's ever caught my attention is Rumble Roses XX, and that's a wrestling game full of a bunch of anime girls in sexy outfits. And if you've been listening to me long enough, you probably know I too, as I use the phrase pervert lovingly, am a bit of a pervert and will certainly gain interest in a wrestling game if you have that aspect to it. And I don't think I'm too far alone from that. I'm looking at this developer. They've made several other games, pretty generic looking games, but none of them have ever even gotten enough reviews to have been rated, except for the bundle, which was rated negatively. So interesting that somebody's trying, but it's kind of sad that nobody's succeeding. Not even WWE. They do such a horrible job making the wrestling games, from what I hear. Gamer Central has a report: layoffs at the mobile developer Jam City. Jam City has reportedly laid off a unknown number of developers, including some at the subsidiary and Marvel Adventures Academy developer TinyCo. So I haven't heard of Jam City, but I have heard of TinyCo, at least in passing. And if there are indeed layoffs going on, then you could probably figure out immediately where that's from. I think Disney pulled a lot of licenses for anything Marvel. So if they lost the license, or simply Marvel Avengers Academy didn't make enough money, that would make sense. Is it smart to lay people off right before E3? Because it's really like a week, I think, maybe two, before we're heading to E3. Does laying somebody off at that time give them some kind of special opportunity to go to E3 and talk to people and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job"? I doubt that's the people at E3 would be the people that are hiring, really, because it would be the publishers and different departments. Does laying people off the week before E3 get forgotten during E3? Not really. If anything, I think it would distract everything. Generally speaking, if you're going to lay people off, you do it in the first quarter or the second quarter. We're moving towards the third quarter.
Greetings, traveler. Greetings, traveler.
I'm certainly not winning with this Murloc deck, and that seems odd because I've had success with Murloc decks before. Maybe not as much as I'd like, but
I move quickly.
anyways, Your Gamer Lego DC Supervillains coming in October, plus there's a trailer. In the trailer you see the Joker, of course, but it seems like also you might see a lot of the anti-evil versions from Earth. Is it 3 of the Justice League? Injustice was, I think, the name of the series. They made a fighting game. Makers of Mortal Kombat made a DC Marvel fighting game. Yeah, let's just play this. In fact, let's just play casual. Like, who cares at this point? We're looking for victories, and I need to be smarter about this stuff and get it working. And actually succeed. Let's see.
Gul'dan versus Anduin.
One assumes,
The light shall bring
in all honesty, you can really pull this off. You could very easily just have the exact same type of game in a Lego game playing as the bad guys. There's really no difference because you're just running from point A to point B usually and you know, smashing things to get studs. Those are not inherently good or bad actions, just how you paint it. I assume, it being a kid's game, that there's going to be a twist at the end. Either the bad guys are still going to lose and end up back in jail, or a bigger villain is going to show up. I mean, you can't go too long playing as the Joker defeating the Batman every single time. Like, you can't have 10 levels. Star Wars The Force Awakens only had like 6 or maybe 10 story levels, and then another 6 or 10 adventure levels. But then a lot of what that game turned out to be is boring, grindy quests in 4 separate small open world sections that are not connected.
What you want?
So we'll get more information, I guess, on what the Lego game is. Probably not that much. I doubt many people are going to even talk about it too much.
I should meet you.
Let's hit this. We have from Gamatsu, Nordisk Film acquires Avalanche Studios. The Just Cause studio is going to maintain its creative freedom, allegedly. The Danish film studio Nordisk, Nordisk Film has acquired the Just Cause and Mad Max game developer Avalanche Studios, the company announced. That seems like that's insane to announce that, since at E3 there supposedly is going to there's going to be this announcement of Rage 2. So what in the world is going on there? Best as we were speculating, Avalanche Studios was making a Mad Max game. A lawsuit came down saying you can't make any more Mad Max anything because the creator of Mad Max is suing Fox that owns the license to Mad Max. They shifted that Mad Max game into Rage 2. So where does selling your studio, like, did they panic at some point? I guess that's the only thing you could assume, is that at some point they completely panicked and oops, I wish there was a way to undo your last action.
Sure, send the little guy.
Chill out.
At some point they must have panicked and tried to start the process of selling their company, and then they stopped panicking and then they turned it over to Rage. Or this says something terrible about what Rage 2 actually is going to be, which there is a very good chance of that. Like, remember, Avalanche Studios, I thought, was one of the companies that Yeah, Avalanche Studios is developing Rage 2 for Bethesda Softworks. And Bethesda Softworks has been having all of its companies make not the best of content lately. Like, let's face it, there wasn't a screaming love for Dishonored 2 or Fallout 4, or Doom was kind of loved, but even that kind of died down. And I really think they're kind of middle of the road products. Prey is another example of a game with just no huge amount of passion and love for these games. There is also an issue where I think in particular the mainstream video game media is not happy with Wolfenstein 2 because of a unrealistic reason. The reason being that they didn't go make this hardcore anti-Nazi propaganda game in Wolfenstein, not anti-Nazis, frankly, people who are called Nazis in the modern day. But of course they were never going to make a game like that, in the same way that Fallout 5 was of course never going to be an anti-religion game, and it's the exact same feeling. So we've had like 2 examples in this year alone of at least an argument being able to be made that the mainstream media has been unhappy with games because they weren't extremely progressive. Of course, maybe that's all just a made up argument in the first place, and maybe mainstream video game media too could just be described as being very flippant and moving on to the next game over and over again, which is what they're supposed to do. Paladin or Warrior this time. There is a slight argument to say when the mainstream video game media wants to continue covering something after it's been released, they certainly will. You see it on Giant Bomb every week, where if they're playing a game such as God of War right now, they will talk about God of War for 1 week, the week that it comes out, which seems about appropriate. But then if they're still playing it or still thinking about it, they'll talk about it the next week. So then you've got 2 weeks. And sometimes if they're still playing about it or thinking about it, they'll talk about it for 3 weeks or even 4 weeks. And they may talk for a whole month, since the Bombcast only comes out once a week, about a game that's already come out, specifically because they're playing it and because they're liking it, which not inherently is wrong, but it can turn into an elevation of a game simply because you've picked to elevate it. Like, the 15 minutes of fame argument falls apart when some games are given 15 weeks of fame. Also, Giant Bomb does almost an entire week at the end of the year talking about games, so that's also a thing. As for this news story with Nordisk, we'll have to see. But I do suspect Rage 2, and this is another thing I'm going to call. My 2 predictions so far is that we will realize in completion that 2019 will be the year of the zombie for video games. And my second prediction is that Rage 2 is getting a lot of hype and doing some probably viral marketing. I suspect, at least there's a chance, that the leak of Rage 2 by Walmart Canada was intentional. But I heavily predict Rage 2 will not be the greatest of games. It probably won't be as long as the first game. It probably won't even be as good as the first game. And arguably that could be the kiss of death in itself, because people did not like at least the ending of the first game. I too only got so far into the game, and it just seems slow. Or you know what happened is it came out like a week before Borderlands 1, and everybody jumped to Borderlands 1. We have another article here from Gamasutra. Zynga acquires the mobile game developer Gram Games for $250 million. Let's see. They've acquired this London and Istanbul-based game studio, Gram Games, $250 million in cash. For Zynga, that might just be a drop in the bucket. Zynga being the maker of Farmville, and this could just be an acqui-hire. Gram Games is known for Merge Dragons, a top 50 grossing App Store game, and Tintin. The studio, which employs 77 people, has games in development that Zynga expects to launch next year. And I think for mobile game companies, that's the way they've determined that they can survive, is by acquiring other people's products and having a consistent release of moderately varied products for people to get into and then leave. We've got a game on Steam called Save One More. Save One More is a heal 'em up game about a combat medic where your task is to save lives instead of taking them. Let's see. So it says it's an indie action war single player. It looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter. And it looks like you have a gun, and it looks like you're running around. Well, there's a bunch of AI characters running around in groups, and kind of flows of enemies running over the top in World War II trenches. And then apparently also you're gonna go into like concentration camps and heal people. It is an interesting spin on an idea of a game, but really it looks like what they did is they took a top-down twin-stick shooter that they were already developing to be set in World War II, and instead said, hey, let's make them a medic instead. This game is 17% off, so it's $4.97. Graphics don't look terrible. We've got 5 positive reviews. It doesn't seem like you're actually doing anything to heal the people, though. It's not a Steam achievement game. It seems like you're shooting them with your healing gun, and that's what they are calling healing. Let's see. This is from a developer who has made a handful of other games that are rated positive, so that says something, I suppose. Save One More still doesn't look like it's really interesting to me. Paladin or Murloc, right? Those are what we're looking for victories for. Paladin or Warrior. Let's keep on trying. I don't know what happened to my plugin that was supposed to stop duplicate tabs from opening, but because it's certainly not working right now. I probably clicked on something when I had all of the screens messed up. I suppose it's worth pointing out too is my ear has never really healed, and it's been quite a pain, literal pain, wearing headphones for the past couple days, and last night trying to sleep, either sleeping on it or sleeping off of it. Either way, still put it in a great amount of pain. So yeah, I'm not doing too well, and that certainly is a relative statement. I don't know if I can deal with it, or if I'm gonna end up having to go to a, not ER, but an urgent care is what they're called in the United States, and you sit at these urgent cares because you're not really urgent for as longer than you would sit in an ER, which is pretty long, and see a doctor for a relatively cheap amount of money. And I've done this once before where I've not even really seen the doctor, but the nurses came in and they had the tools and the training to look in my ears and go, oh yeah, those are super clogged. Look at this too. We need somebody online on the European account because my only quest today is a watch and learn. And in the meantime, I guess we'll make a tavern brawl deck. Build a deck with 20 minions. Will give you a 10 random class spells and the rod, so you can fish minions out of your opponent's deck. Go on fishing. Well, this certainly seems like this should just be a Murloc deck. Like, if that's the idea. Let's see. R, low C. Let's see which ones we can get in here. Let's see. Two more. There we go, 20 minions and brawl. I guess maybe the idea here is you're always supposed to have more of a balance of 10 spells to 20 million minions in a deck, or something closer to that. Certainly I don't particularly play that way. I may very well underuse and underutilize spells, but frankly, I'm a little too stuck in my ways with Hearthstone. I'm not sure I want to change, or want to put any effort to change. And yes, getting down a little bit watching people like Trump make it to Legendary and going, yeah, that's just never going to happen for me because I just didn't start early enough. Like the low-level new player element, the way a new player is going to experience things and start at rank 25 is so bad compared to what somebody who is going to just start at rank 10 each month and have to play enough to get up to rank to Legendary. Maybe it's hubris, but I honestly feel like if I was started at rank 1 month, I could hold on to that rank in for several months, and I wouldn't fall back down to rank 20. But maybe that's not true. Anyways, moving on, Tech Raptor has an article. Classic adventure thriller Killer 7 is making its way to Steam. We already knew this announcement and talked about it, but I believe there is a Steam link now. Yes, where you can watch the trailer and screenshots and everything So if there's a Steam page, that certainly means that will go in my wish list. Speaking of wish lists, there was a game that was on sale. It's not on sale anymore. Called 60 Seconds, which has been a 3-year-old game that I've been keeping my eye on, certainly, for all 3 of those years. It was one of those games that was kind of hyped up by Giant Bomb, and frankly, it probably was overhyped, but I haven't really seen anything different there. You have 60 seconds to run around your house in this procedurally generated house, collect items, and then at the end of 60 seconds, you need to go into a shelter with your family and live and see how long you can live in that shelter. I'm just gonna add random people until somebody accepts a friend request and is online.
Soul shall be mine. I will fight with honor.
And it then becomes a decision-based, like, survival, misery simulator, I suppose might be the case. But it's done in a slightly, it's not a horrible animation style, and it's not designed to look grotesque or be macabre. Anyways, that game was on sale for $2.50. At $2.50, it's probably worth it. I saw some negative reviews saying even at that price, it wasn't worth it. But it has been very much overpriced in like every single other sale. It's 75% off to get down to $2.50 is the best sale they've ever done for it. So they've been very stingy and greedy on that, and that kind of sucks. But I kind of wish I had purchased it. Just certainly didn't have the money. Like, got so many projects going on, and there probably needs to be a bit of a. I didn't realize we were playing with only 20 health. That's nice too. There kind of needs to be a what they call come to Jesus moment, why I look at how many projects I'm doing and how many non-video game things I'm doing lately, and realize, and question at least, am I becoming a more very like well-rounded human being, or am I just distracting myself from the fact that I don't want to play as many games as I used to, and that there's a little bit of burnout? I think the answer lies somewhere in between. I probably do have, well, almost certainly do have some burnout that I am at least somewhat treating or medicating for by doing other projects such as Lego. I'm building one more Raspberry Pi computer, but then that should be the end of it. But I'm building quite an extensive one where it's not just a Raspberry Pi in a case, it's a Raspberry Pi with a touch screen and an external hard drive and an entire power system, so that multiple devices are all going off 12 volts, and that, because everything's going off 12 volts, that means I'm going to have to buy what is basically an automotive transformer, a step-down transformer from 12 volts to 5 volts, and I'm going to be certainly entering regions in where I could be buying poor quality products that would fry the expensive equipment, or I could be just doing something electronically unsound and pushing way too much current into a device, which I don't think that's how current works. I think I think if you put in theory, since the Raspberry Pi wants about 3 amps or 2.5, but the Raspberry Pi Model B Plus probably could go for 3 just fine. If I was to put 300 amps at the same voltage too, from a transformer. I don't think theoretically that would do anything, but because it's up to that amount, it's whatever the device actually asks for. But I'm not sure. There might be a point where too much is too much, and I'm certainly not going up to 300 amps, but I am thinking of doing a 10 amp 12 volt power brick to control 3 different devices. I also want to put a RAV power file hub into the stream with the Raspberry Pi, so then you have a battery backup for this portable computer. That also, the file hub acts as a not hotspot to give you internet, but a wireless hub device that lets you share more data, pictures, videos, and such, which is certainly more of an interesting thought again. And then I'm building the system to try and think along the lines of having everything power over Ethernet, which probably won't happen, but maybe a future upgrade. One of the biggest issues right now is just building the box it goes into and getting speakers that are small enough, so I'm gonna probably end up buying a rather cheap pair of Amazon Basic speakers to immediately take it apart, the system, the speaker as a whole, cut off speakers that are probably too big and attach speakers that are a lot smaller, which then means the system will be rather probably loud and overdriving those speakers, if and thus the volume dial probably could never be turned up to the maximum. And see, that's a pretty big project that obviously I've had some passion with, and I don't see myself having the same passion when I'm playing Lego The Force Awakens. Now I do know I'm going to move to Borderlands 2, so fingers crossed. There really shouldn't be a reason why I jump into Borderlands 2 and have a horrible experience. If anything, the problem with Borderlands 2 is going to be just having a quick experience, because there's so much DLC there. It's going to have to be at least hour-long episodes released on the daily. Still probably going to be too many episodes to squeeze in between now and October. Which probably is an indicator that I shouldn't actually play Borderlands 2 originally. I should probably go play not Broken Age, but the other Double Fine game that I was thinking about playing. And see, I have, like, on top of the Raspberry Pi project, which is slightly interesting, I have several other interesting projects that aren't as interesting, but I don't want to just continue. I don't want to really get into them and discuss them. We've got a game on Steam, that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now, called 150,000 BC. This game says prehistoric age. This is amazing primitive world in which you have to survive. It looks exactly like a cheap platformer. Arguably, maybe some of the tile animations are alright, but there's nothing here. I see no enemies, I see no collectibles. It looks like total garbage. 40% off for 59 cents. No reviews. I don't think I'm even gonna go down to reviews. I gotta save as much time as possible when looking at games. Next game we have on Steam is called Hot Floor. It looks like a 3D, the floor is lava type game. You're jumping all over the place and wall running and apparently bouncing. It has more movements than I would normally expect a game of this quality to have, but it doesn't. It looks repetitive, it looks generic as far as the animation. It's just not good quality animation. Let's see, it's not a VR game at all, and it's 20% off for $30.99. Yeah. And I don't know if there's really any more justification we need to say here. It's made by a developer who's made a handful of games that are some are positive, some are negative, some are neutral. It's pretty much, I guess, all I can say about it. I wish it wouldn't take so long for that gym to fade out. Somehow got a Twitter follower following some person that I haven't seen any of their posts ever, like, before this point. And it's like a Hearthstone podcast, and I have no idea why I'd even be following this on Twitter. So I'm just gonna unfollow. I'm not even gonna mute this people because I don't even know how I ended up following them. Like, I don't follow podcasts on Twitter. There's no reason. I have an entire app on my phone to follow podcasts. And download the podcast and listen to them. We've got a game called Wild West Saga Idle Tycoon. This is 88 Steam achievements, early access, free to play. Guess the price is right, but if it's just an idle achievement game, I don't know what you're really gonna sell. The animation actually looks very, very good, but I think that's kind of all you're selling yourself on. Like, apparently there's a screen here that has different levels too, but it's an idler game. It totally is just an idler game. It looks like a really good one. Let's see, there should be some reviews.
Where shall I strike?
Right now, I guess I'm just mostly trying to get somebody to friend me or come on or what. Let's see. The first review is not recommended. This game hasn't been good to me. I love clickers, guns and balls, but this game doesn't have much of anything. It was mostly annoying, which I usually recommended, but not this time. Smiley face. It claims to be, next review, not recommended, says claims to be early access, but it's clearly a mobile point. Once you start it up, prepare for no windowed mode period. Blaring sound until you click a few things and eventually find the options menu only sound. 10 minutes of pop-ups to ready handhold you. Not sure you can immediately assume that a game like this is a mobile port. It might be, it might not, but this is the only game from them. It's free to play, but apparently has microtransactions in it, so nothing there I think to interest me. Let's see this.
Try one.
PC Gamer has an article. Dying Light launches the last of 10 free content drops. Here's the final 10 in 12 installment. So 10 in 12 months, I guess, was the idea. And the final drop is now live. Dying Light has done an amazingly good job of supporting their game, but I think even at this point most people can admit that they should be spending all of their effort and go dark on their next game. It feels like you're very possibly not going to have a very good game from Techland in 2 or 3 years, or you're not going to have any game from Techland in 2 or 3 years at all, because of the fact that they've just spent so much time up on this project. Oh, I did not realize that's how that system worked. I thought this was going to give me 3 copies. Regardless. Alright, moving forward. TechRaptor has an article. Bethesda announces new Fallout game, Fallout 76. I watched a trailer for Fallout 76 and it has a very Bioshock feel to it. It definitely gives me the feeling that just from the trailer directly, that you're going to spend your entire gameplay life in there and gameplay time in Fallout in Shelter 76. And it's just going to be this giant shelter. Maybe there will be tunnels that connect to other shelters. That certainly might be the
Beetleberries, my favorite.
Let's see.
Your candles little kobolds.
Who are you?
Try one.
For the wilds. Job done.
At least that's the feeling I had from it. Now, I've heard a little bit more news since the original trailer look, and it says it's going to have the rumors it's going to have the exact same, what were they called, area building mechanics. I've seen some mods for Fallout 4 where you can mod and design a shelter in the same way that you can mod and decorate and design the outside areas, the bases. But that in itself can't be its own game. Or if it is, it's just not the game that we're looking for. Also, it didn't really feel like it was a spiritual successor to Fallout New Vegas, which would be the only other Fallout game in recent memory that is a side Fallout game, excluding Fallout Shelter, which, I mean, of course you can't include that. Let's just play this. This is gonna be ridiculous. They say Fallout 76 is a standard shelter, so there's no crazy like mental experiment being done. It's not 100 women to 1 man or 100 men to 1 woman type experiments happening. It is just a standard shelter. And I don't know how that is inherently different from shelter like 111 that you came out of in Fallout 4, or the shelter you came out of in Fallout 3, or the shelter you came out of in Fallout 2 or Fallout 1. I think there is a Fallout Tactics or Fallout Wastelands game also that you might compare to 76 to, but ideally I would like to see it something like BioShock, where the shelter itself has grown or was designed to be huge, and in that design entire factions happen, giant underground areas are available, there's rad roaches and a series of other enemies attacking you at all times. Like, I could easily see a giant shelter being built, one section being infested with super mutants, one section being infested with rad roaches, one section being infected with radioactive water. Like, you could have the Institute or something. The speculation is that this will be one of the first shelters to ever open up, so you're going to be left on an almost barren, empty world. So let's say you spend very little time actually in shelter 76, and you just come out into an almost completely empty world right after the nuclear war happens. What does that inherently do for you? And that seems like that would just give you a very, very empty world. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see. I don't see the reason or the rhyme behind that. Like, if the Fallout, the nuclear fallout just happened, there'd just be fire everywhere, there'd be radiation everywhere, super mutants and such. Like, there's a canonical storyline reason why super mutants exist. It, I believe, would be set before this game. There's probably not going to be immediate rad roaches when you walk out of shelter 76. There's probably not going to be sense at all. It seems like it is a huge step backwards as far as just adding content to Fallout. So in my mind, as a armchair creator, I don't see how 76 takes place outside of the world at all. I think that's the ending, is you walk out of the shelter and you're this super strong, capable leader, and at that point you start rebuilding the world. But I suppose we'll see a bigger trailer that will reveal more things, and this is the very beginning of a hype train that, frankly, people should learn their lesson and not be on. Fallout 4, not great. Like, as somebody who was gifted, I have to remember that. I was gifted Fallout 4, I believe. Let me double check that. Let's just, before we wrap up here. Did I get Fallout 4 for free and not even bother to play it? Yes, I did. Now, I do believe I don't have the DLC for Fallout 4, so that's something I should probably put in my shopper list. Let's see. Let's see, the season pass is $50. So if I added that to my cart, see Fallout 4 is a ripoff too. Yeah, with all that DLC. Yeah, I was gifted Fallout 4. And apparently one friend wants this game. Which, that is why I ask people to friend me on Steam, certainly. So, Nuka World and Far Harbor are the big DLC there. Overall, Fallout 4 has mixed reviews. It's mostly positive right now in the last 30 days, but overall it's mixed reviews. So people weren't even really hyped about it. And to be fair, I think I don't own Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition for $20. Is like, I think I'd probably prefer to play that. And then Fallout 4 VR is another $60. And you can get Fallout 3 not in Game of the Year Edition for $9.99, which I don't think that would be the right move to do. Like, apologies, I would say that just, but that really says something too. Is like they've announced this new Fallout so early because even they know Fallout 4 was a disappointment, and they really needed the team and the company that they hired, the third-party company that made Fallout New Vegas, to be making Fallout 76, and there should be like a New Vegas 2. Frankly, it should be called New Vegas 2. It should be set in New Vegas again, and it should be everything that Fallout 4 wasn't. Anyways, I'm 18 minutes over on this recording, and this is as good of a place to stop as any. I guess what we'll do is we'll go back to the Asian account, and nobody's on the European account, so I may just have to do that off screen. And I guess inherently I'm gonna have to rush through games, or we're just gonna have a bunch of stuff for Friday. Like, we may just leave games for Friday because I'm going to finish all these daily quests, I think, a lot faster than I should have. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.